So my travel day back from Singapore was quite a long day, but not in the travel portion of it. It wasn't like when you're traveling internationally and you have literally like 20 hours on a flight. Even if you have layovers and like stints in between to get off the plane, international travel, especially from the United States to Asia, you're typically on a plane sometimes like 11 hours just in one stint, 12 hours just in one stint. So my travel day yesterday wasn't like that. However, there was a lot of moving and it turned into a really long day. The morning was easy, it was quiet. I didn't do a whole lot because I had just walked like 12 or 13 miles the day before doing the botanical gardens and then gardens by the bay. So I took the morning easy. I didn't try to squeeze anything else in, but I did make sure that I had a really nice meal at the Funan Mall. But it was cool because their food court is almost like a hawker center. So they have different types of food you can pick from, but they also have you get your tray, you get your food, you eat, you can go get a drink from another place and something else from another place, and then you just take your tray back to this tray center and put it back. And I actually had a really good, authentic, like Singapore noodle soup with pork belly in it for my last meal in Singapore. So I was so happy about that. So I did that, and then I started the trek to the airport, which isn't bad. It's actually super easy. I was staying at a place called Life in the Funan Mall, and the MRT station is actually connected to the mall. So I could walk underground to the City Hall MRT stop, and I took the train to Shanghai Airport. Now granted, there's a lot of stops. So I want to say I took the East-West line to this one stop, and then I do have to get off and transfer to the Shanghai Airport, which had one stop, and then it was the airport, maybe two stops, and then the airport. But overall, because Google Maps kept saying it was going to take about an hour, I had planned for an hour anyway to get to the airport, but I was like, there's no way, because the trains are so like fast, and even with a lot of stops, they tend to go quickly. But I clocked it. I clocked from when I started at the City Hall terminal with all the stops. I think there were like 8 stops before the transit, and then there's another like 2 stops. And then we had a pretty long wait at the transit center. I think it was about 10 minutes. Maybe it just felt like 10 minutes because it was hot. It wasn't inside, so it wasn't air conditioned. It was shaded, but it was outside like this. It was open air, so it started to get hot. And at this point, I've had my backpack on my back for probably a good 30 minutes at this point. So I get to the airport. You come out into the main, like one of the main terminals. I think it was Terminal 1. And Terminal 2. And I had to get to Terminal 1. So I just had to walk and follow the signs to the train that takes you to Terminal 1. Now, it took me a second because I got to the terminal forgetting that I had to go to a different terminal. So I'm looking at the sign and like all the flights, and none of the flights listed are my flight. And I'm like, how is that possible? How am I not on the board? You know, they have like the 3:50 flight and then the 4 o'clock flight, but no 3:55 flight, which was my flight. So I'm just staring at it, like dumbfounded. And then finally I realized, oh, hello, I'm in the wrong terminal. So I catch the interterminal train to go to Terminal 1, look at the sign, and there's my flight. I have to check in at counter 7, go to counter 7, and they have, like, these airports, man, I swear, they're so, I think, easier, because you don't have to see, let me back up. Everything is electronic, right? You go check in at a kiosk, scan your passport, get your ticket, get your luggage tags, all that, and then if you have luggage, you drop it at the luggage drop. I made the mistake of going straight to like the departures gate where they check your they check your ticket and then they check your passport, and the guy's like, you need a stamp, you can't get through on this ticket. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, go to the desk, go to the desk. So I go back to the area, and because there's so many computers where you automatically check yourself in, I don't see the desk with a person sitting at it. So I'm looking around, feeling like an idiot. Finally, I catch the attention of one of the guys who helps with the kiosks. I was like, I'm supposed to get a different ticket? And he goes, oh yeah, go over there. So there's literally like 3 people manning a desk that you go to, but you can't see them because there's so many like automatic kiosks to check into. So I go over there, and they just had to check my documents because it's an international flight to Bali, and they always ask the question like, do you have a visa, or are you going to get one on arrival? I tell her I'm going to get one on arrival, and she checks my documents and gives me a new ticket, actually. So I got a new ticket and then went back and the guy let me through the area to get to the gates. So I don't meander too long because Singapore airport to me is pretty big and I don't know it that well, and I didn't have a lot of time. So at this point, I only had about 30 minutes until they were gonna start like boarding the flight, which I'm glad that I didn't dilly-dally, because I found my gate. And in this airport, they don't scan your luggage when you go past the first security guard. You can just go to the gate. However, at the gate, about 20 to 30 minutes before they start boarding the flight, they start checking everyone's carry-ons. And so that's when you go through the scan, and they scan your bags, and you walk through the metal detectors and things like that. So thankful I didn't dilly-dally. I went straight to the gate, waited maybe 10 minutes, and then they started filing us through the security. So I get through security, I sit down, wait maybe another 10 minutes, and start boarding the flight. Scoot Airways is super efficient. I feel like I really like their planes are big, like super big, at least this one, between Bali and Singapore. The plane is big, staff is super nice and genuine and helpful. And just super efficient. Yeah, just getting on and off the flight did not feel like this huge production. It was just like, okay, this group, okay, this group, okay, this group, okay, this group, and you just file on, and it didn't take long. My flight was only 2.5 hours, which, like I said, when you're doing international travel, sometimes your flight, just one flight is like 11, 12 hours. So this flight's 2.5 hours. I make it back to Bali. Everything's on time. I get to Bali, and then here's where I get stuck. So normally I have an electronic visa, and now You don't even go through immigration where they like stamp your passport. You just go through a gate, and as long as you did everything correctly online, you just scan your passport and it already matches your passport to your electronic visa, and you just keep going. Well, because I've been applying for a 60-day visa, I can't go through the gate because I haven't been approved yet. So I have to go to the counter and tell them my situation, and she's like, okay, I need to get you a manual visa. And I'm actually happy this happened, even though it took so much time. So I got basically a piece of paper, paid for my visa, I get a piece of paper. Now I have to go stand in immigration line, and they physically have to check it and stamp it. So I'm excited because I'm gonna get the stamp. I'm not excited because that immigration line, I think, took 35 to 45 minutes. I know at a certain point when I checked, like the time starting was after I had been standing in the line for a while. So from that time till when I checked, it had been, till I got to the counter, 38 minutes or something crazy like that. So it took a super long time. However, I got the stamp in my passport, which makes me so happy. It was also a good thing I had to wait, or it took me so long, because my driver had picked up my friend Karen from the airport earlier that day at like 3 or 4 p.m., had driven her all the way to Ubud, which is like an hour-and-a-half drive, as long as traffic is not crazy. And then he had to drive back and pick me up. So actually, by the time he was dropping her off, my plane was landing. So it actually worked out really well that I had to go through immigration and get the manual visa and the stamp, because by the time I got done, since I didn't have checked luggage, I just kept walking through everything. You have to scan your QR code for your arrival card. I think a lot of people get stuck in the Bali airport because they don't have that, they don't do the e-visa, so they have to do the manual one and it takes longer. Or they don't do this immigration, or not immigration card, arrival card, which is like, are you declaring anything? So you normally in the past you would fill it out on the plane, your declaration. Well, now everyone's going electronic. So a ton of people are standing in this zone trying to do this electronic arrival card, and I've already got mine done and I have no checked luggage. So I just get in the line, scan my arrival card, and keep going. So when you're first entering Bali, it can be very intimidating, because especially at peak times, and last night when my flight arrived was a peak time, because you come out and there's this whole section of drivers that are carrying signs, or they're calling out because they're waiting for the people they are driving for. Well, I know this because now it's like the 3rd time I've been to Bali. So I already know my driver's not here because I'm WhatsApping him. So I'm just like watching all these people, go through the line looking for their name. And I was able to skip all that. I went the other way, found a restroom, went to the Circle K, got myself a water, and waited for my driver. And then I waited for probably another 20, maybe 30 minutes for him to arrive. And then again, the drive to Ubud is like an hour and a half. Even at that time of night, at that point it was probably, gosh, I want to say 8 o'clock. So my flight landed at 6:30, and I wasn't driving to Ubud until 8 o'clock. And again, partly my fault, because I had to do the manual visa, and then also because he was running behind after dropping off my friend in Ubud. So I our drive was about an hour and a half. Traffic wasn't too bad. I didn't get to my place until 10 o'clock, I want to say. So an hour and a half, 2 hours drive. So if you think about it, I essentially started traveling from Singapore about 1 p.m. I had lunch from 12 to 1, and then at 1 I started traveling. So and I say started traveling because I walked to the MRT, I took the train to the airport, got checked in at the airport, flew to Bali, got a taxi to Ubud. So yeah, it was about a 10-hour travel day just to get from hotel to hotel. And I say all this because I feel like it was very easy. Everything in Singapore and in Bali are set up very efficiently. Again, the Scoot staff was super efficient. Immigration was efficient, except for the manual passport part. You know, it's just, it is what it is. Sometimes when like several flights get in at the same time, and a lot of people haven't done the electronic visa, like that line tends to get long. It is what it is. But overall, it's a super efficient process. But it still kind of blows my mind that door to door it was 10 hours. But yeah, better that. I loved this trip, this jaunt, because I was already on this side of the world and I got to go check out another place for a few days, and it didn't feel like this major commitment. It didn't feel like I had to set aside weeks and weeks and weeks of time to go to one place. Instead, I spent 3 days, maximized my time while I was there, and then got out. And again, the travel days, the transit days were fairly easy. Long, but easy. So that's my jaunt to Singapore. So thanks for listening to my story